in the Whoa, hold your horses. This is a part 2 video where I'll be comparing my Arena Silver Augment tier list rankings with stats, as well as having a for fun tier list at the end of the video. If you haven't seen the original video, bugger off and watch that one first. I'll have the link in the description, as it will make this one make more sense. If you have already seen it, then welcome, and I hope you enjoy this video. Like I talked about before, I made a little Excel sheet where I compared my tier list to things like average place rank, first rank, and top 2 rank. So let's quickly look at that now. I'm a strong believer that there's a lot of things that go into win rates and like average place ranks. For instance, like what kind of people are playing the OP things at the moment, especially because we're looking at PBE right now, so the data is very unreliable, but it's still interesting to see the trends. Let's quickly go over the most interesting things that I can see from this Excel sheet, and once again, it is in the description below if you just want to look at it yourself. So the first thing you can see is that my highest rated augment is Take It or Leave It, and yeah, every metric shows that it is absolutely OP. It's just an absolute game changer for any champion you are playing that can use crit, or you can go towards a build path that uses crit, and definitely needs to see more nerfs, or I think it should remain as it is, but just be bumped up into a gold augment, and even then maybe tuned down a little more. Now, Contra Killer is my second highest rated augment, but as you can see in the average place rank, it only actually gets in the 16th place. But if you look at how often it gets first place, it is the third highest augment. So it is a very high roll augment. If you can get those kills, you're pretty much going to win because you'll still have more gold than everyone else. But if you can't get the kills from the Contract Killer, then yeah, it is pretty much a dead augment. So yeah, I think Contract Killer is a very high reward, low risk augment, because sure, you might not get the extra gold, but you are still doing 15% damage to a target, which is pretty insane. Now, like an augment like Repulsor, I have really high, but as you can see, like average place rank and first rank has it lower, and I think that is fair. There could be instances where your Repulsor doesn't actually help you, but in cases where it does save you from someone chasing you down, then I do think Repulsor is absolutely insane. Another time my rating was pretty accurate with average rank and first rank was Erosion. It does sound really boring, the augment, but it is absolutely broken. Now, you might be gleefully sitting there looking at the next 4 and how I rate them really highly, but if you would consider the average placement rank or the first rank, you would think that these augments are really weak. But that's mostly because they're being picked a lot in a ton of games. So pretty much everyone is seeing Executioner, and Taking It is the most picked augment by quite a lot, almost like double if you go down there. And then Infernal Soul is also getting picked a ton. Deft is getting picked the 4th most. And even something like Guilty Pleasure is getting picked 11th. And this is a good example of why if you only look at average place, first place percentage, and top 2 percentage, you can be misled by the strength of augments, because people are just straight up trolling on the augments. I don't know what this champions thing is, but it's saying that Yuumi apparently takes Executioner to deal 50% more damage. Bard is taking it, and these champions are absolutely dog. Here we have to see also Yuumi again, Infernal Soul, so maybe it is just absolutely tanking the win rates. Like if you look at Guilty Pleasure, we have Nunu here, which is also probably taking the win rates. So yeah, there's a lot of things that come into it. If things have higher pick rate, that means that there's a lot of like bad players taking the augment. The ones that have really high pick rate are also the really like simple ones that are easy to understand, and if people are taking them, maybe they don't really know what's happening in the game. Like every player can read gain 50% attack speed, be like, okay, that's good. Every player can read gain 70 ability power and just take it. If you like look at, for instance, pick rate, if you look at Take It or Leave It, Take It or Leave It only has a 0.7% pick rate, but it is clearly the most busted thing in the entire game at the moment. As we go on, we can see that my rankings are relatively close to the average place ranking, the first ranking, or the top 2 ranking. Here we can see a little trend where the Enchanter augments are getting really high average place rank, first rank, and top 2 rank. And that's because the people in the top 100 are spamming like Lulu plus Kog'Maw, Lulu plus Twitch, Lulu plus Kaisa, all of these combos. And I think that's really bumping up the average place rank, first rank, and top 2 rank stats. So I don't think it's actually the augment strength, it's just the champion combos that use these augments are really strong. One of the funniest things I see is Castle, which I rated pretty average as one of the worst augments in terms of win rate, and that is of course going to be true, especially on PvE, where I think a lot of people are playing with randoms at the moment. They don't have duos, and Castle is going to be terrible if you don't have a duo. There's also a lot of trolling that's possible with Castle, so it's like kind of a self-nerf as people just try it out for laughs. So I'm not surprised by this at all. Right below Castle, I have Mind to Matter, and you can see that the average place rank, first rank, and top 2 rank are actually really high. And it makes sense. I think as your first augment, it is ridiculously OP if you can then build a tier item and your champion can use it. I just don't place it any higher, because if you don't get it as your very first option, I think its effectiveness is way lower. Near the bottom of my list, I have Warm-Up Routine, which actually performs fairly well, and it does make sense, especially if you're playing against people who aren't aware of Warm-Up Routine. I think as you get better and better, Warm-Up Routine actually gets worse and worse, because people will just charge at you trying to disrupt you from using that Warm-Up Routine. But if people aren't aware of what it does and you can get it fully stacked, it is quite strong. Now, I made my tier list first before looking at the stats, as I didn't want that to affect my intuition, as I genuinely really trust it. And when it comes to like Mountain Soul, for instance, you can see that my intuition was actually pretty accurate. You could think Mountain Soul is pretty strong, but the way it places shows that it actually does feel rather weak. At the same time though, it's good to look at the stats and realize that you could be wrong in certain instances. I have Juicebox all the way down in 30th, and I did talk about how I do see the cases for it, and you can clearly see that Juicebox places really high in average rank, first rank, and top 2 rank. So if I did make this tier list again, I could see myself bumping it up further. I still personally don't really like it because of the RNG elements of it. But if you are willing to play that game, then it clearly is actually quite strong. The final augment we'll look at is Evocation, which I place at second to worst. And yeah, as you can see, it had the worst average place rank, worst first rank, and worst top 2 rank. So yeah, if you don't believe me that Evocation is terrible, like I talked before, my god, is it useless. Now, you thought I was done, and honestly, I thought I was done, but I just remember that a lot of people have been complaining that people are taking this, what could be a for fun game mode, way too seriously, and I actually 100% agree. Now, don't get me wrong, I love strategy games so much, and I'm looking forward to trying my best to play the game at full effectiveness. But I think people need to remember that you can still play the game for fun. I hope that they do add an arena like a normal mode. I could see them not doing that, as I don't know if there'll be enough people to queue both ranked and normal mode. So maybe you have like one account, which is your main ranked account, and you have another account where you do the more for fun stuff, where you try out all the cool builds, the cool comps, the cool augments, and you kind of understand that you might not win, but you and a buddy have a great time in general. So yeah, so pretty much for every tier list I'm going to make, I'm also going to do a little for fun tier list, which is going to be quite different than the strength tier list. Even though Take It or Leave It is really OP, it is actually so much fun. Like that Nocturne game where I was full crit, I had such a blast just mowing people down while being infinitely tanky. So yeah, it's a great pleasure to have. Contra Killer is another one that's really strong, but being able to have more gold than everyone else and thus more items, more build opportunities is just a pleasure. Repulsor can be really funny if you have those combos where you're trying to force people out of the zone. Castle, if you're playing with a duo, is really troll. You can do some crazy stuff like with the Nunu play, all of these good things. Frozen Foundation's another one where you can kind of troll your teammate, troll the enemies. Battle Sled, it's just fun jumping in, running towards people. I just realized I had evocation here, but it actually belongs here, and we'll talk about that later. Juice box it's a lot of fun because it's like playing the slot machine without having to actually gamble any real money. When you do get hat, you can be like, no, we got hat, that sucks. Or when you get like a bad juice, you can complain about it. Or when you get a good juice, you can be really happy about it. So I enjoy it for that regard. Thresh Lantern, you can do some crazy combos like I was talking about with like Thresh Lantern or pretty much any invisible champion. You can like fly around the map, play hide and seek. Warm-up routine can be really funny if you want to play like a normally not high damage character. If you get warm-up routine, you can actually turn them into a high damage character. Shadowrunner is actually really fun as well. Like I was talking about that Master Yi, he queued and then he would just zoom around the map in that little short instance, so that is hilarious. I think Executioner and all the on-hit augments are really fun. They are strong, and it is quite the dopamine effect to see them being used effectively. Speaking of effectiveness, I think that Now You See Me and Evocation are so bad that it is kind of funny if you want to troll your teammate by taking it. Imagine you're just playing the game, chilling, and then your teammate just starts channeling a little bit of mana and health next to you. You'd be fuming at that, or you can try and do some weird play near the end of the zone where you're just healing with evocation. And I don't know, there's gotta be some weird wacky tech with Now You See Me that you can pull off, but I don't expect you to be getting a lot of wins. But hey, you are having fun, and that's what matters on this list. Now I'm personally biased, so I really love playing really tanky characters and just trying to survive as long as I can, so I think all of the augments that help you tank it up are great for that. I know that there are some people who just like dealing a lot of damage or seeing your stats have really big numbers, which all these augments are great for doing. There's also all the enchanter augments where you are buffing your character, watching them become infinitely tanky. It's a pretty great time. They have some augments that are kind of whatever. I think Black Shield is decently fun, but I mean, just denying the enemy from doing one spell isn't too crazy, so yeah. Then there are the augments that I'm honestly pretty disappointed with. I thought they would be more fun. I thought Tormentor would be better. Maybe you could play like a double tank comp team where you can kill people with the Tormentor augment, but I haven't really seen it be effective, so I am a bit disappointed with that. Ice Cold is another augment where it does sound like it'd be a lot of fun, but in the late game, slows matter less and less. Like Ashe with it is pretty funny for a couple rounds, but eventually it does fall off pretty hard, so I may have rated it higher, but I think most slow champions outside of like Singed with Rylai's won't use Ice Cold that well. Frostwrath is another augment I thought that'd be a lot of fun, rooting enemies within your area, but it wasn't like anything spectacular. Maybe if the route was longer, it would be better, like more entertaining, but yeah, it's just kind of disappointing. The same with Don't Blink. I was kind of hyped that it would be fun, but even when I was like taking it on Hecarim, it doesn't really impress me too much. I didn't really notice the effect of it. It might have been doing a lot of damage, but because it's not doing anything really cool, I don't think it is that much fun. I hope everybody remembers that Arena can be a for fun game mode and a competitive game mode, and that we shouldn't try and convince either one of the sides that our side is better or vice versa. I think we should just try and enjoy the game mode as much as possible, and you should play it the way you want. I will say though that the game is a lot better to have a duo that is on board with what you are planning on doing, as playing with a random who, like, for instance, wants to climb and you're castling him into the enemy over and over again might not be the most enjoyable for them. I really enjoyed putting a lot of effort into this and making the best possible tier list that I can, but if you enjoyed it, I hope you leave it a like, as that helps me out a ton. Also, make sure to subscribe if you enjoyed this video and want to check out my gold augment tier list, which will hopefully be coming out either later today or tomorrow, depending on how sick I'm feeling, and then we'll cap it off with the prismatic tier list. And at some point I'll finish my A to Z journey and be making a champion tier list as well, which will be a pretty big project. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I want to wish you the best of luck on your arena climb.